We're live. Basement Conversations. I'm Energy.
I'm Collis, man. I'm Collis.
Oh, and we have a special guest today. We are live with Christian Wise. The man, bro. Let me tell you, bro. This guy,
Yeah.
I'm going to let him speak for himself in 1 second. Okay? This guy is amazing. The people that surround him, the things that he does, the type of communication that he has. You're going to find out a lot about him
Okay.
And I know this is our first guest on Basement Conversations. I know,
Yeah, at the spot.
Yeah, at the spot. But we're not doing any musical artists and that kind of thing right off the back. You get what I'm saying? I want to do something kind of like...
And I'll pull out the mic right now.
Nah, I know you will. And I'll be right behind you. But the idea is, I think like everybody's like, oh, everybody's doing podcasts and this type of thing. I think it's cool to talk about traumatic things, but I also think that it's cool to find out people who really have an effect in our community.
For sure.
All right.
And the best interests in our community.
Right? So a different type of introduction, but the man, Christian Wise.
How you doing, brother?
Great. How you brothers doing?
Good,
all
man.
right. We all right.
Super honored to be your first guest, man. Let's give it to the people.
So you like the ambiance of the basement?
I do. I mean, it makes you feel like you're at home, right? Like you could be in your basement, your homeboy's basement. It just makes you feel like, okay, let's be ourselves. We don't have to put on a mask. We can be who we genuinely are and have a good conversation. So, yeah, man, I'm excited about this.
Nah, for sure.
Dope. So before we get started, have y'all ever? I was gonna play cards, okay, but I think it's gonna take too much mind power on it.
A little tongue.
All right, a little tongue.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I brought the Uno cards.
See, hey, look, see, and Uno, that works too. But we're gonna do Chinese checkers. All right. I learned this game with my grandma. All right. This game's just like checkers, but it's a little bit different. Okay. It's gonna be nice, simple. We're gonna chat it up while we're doing this. I don't know who locked that in there.
I ain't never played Chinese checkers.
Me either.
There you go.
I played backgammon.
There you go. And here I go.
Yeah.
All right, so basically, this is what you do, okay? I'll pick this one. This will be me. This will be Christian.
Yeah.
This is you main event, all right? And what we're going to do is put all your balls in here, okay? And what you want to do is you want to get your balls across the way to this side, okay? And you want to get yours from this side to this side,
Okay,
all right?
I get what you're saying.
Just by one moves. But you can jump the balls like in checkers, but you can jump as many as you want. And you don't take anybody's marbles off of the thing. Maybe that was the better word to use. Marbles instead of balls.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that you said it like that, you know?
So, Christian, where are you from?
So originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up there in the 80s and came to Georgia for the first time as a kid because my aunt and uncle were the first people to really raise me. My mom was young when she had me, and Monday through Friday I would be with my aunt and uncle, and my mom would get me on weekends. But they moved here when I was 4, so started coming down here at a very young age. And my grandmother's originally from Eatonton, so we had ties here. I always had like a free place to stay, so it was one of the few places I came as a kid. But yeah, man, Cincinnati, Ohio. But I always had ties to Atlanta.
And how do you like Atlanta?
I love it because the things that I do, the things that you guys are doing, I don't think will be, I'm not going to say it's impossible in Cincinnati, but it's a lot harder. You know, I grew up I didn't know any college grads growing up. I didn't know any attorneys. I didn't know any elected officials. You don't see the beautiful, robust, I would say, just the culture that we have in Atlanta of black people doing well, black people in positions of leadership. You don't see that in places like Cincinnati. And so the things that I do now, what you guys are doing, I don't think I would have been able to do there. So I love being here, and I'm grateful for Atlanta because Atlanta opened up his arms for somebody like me who's not originally from here. But if you come here, you got a good heart, you're a good person, you connect with good people, and I think if you want to do things for good reasons, then you can thrive here.
No, for sure, man. One thing I do notice, man, you gotta
And we go like this.
Yeah, you got a Cincinnati Red hat on. Man. How long you been here?
Wait, hold on. You got an LA hat on.
No. I know. I was just getting to. Are you a Braves, Falcons, Hawk fan? Like just by, association?
I'm a Bengals fan first and foremost.
Okay,
it's who they. You Reds hat. I got Cincinnati C's tatted all over me. I got some Atlanta A's on me too.
Okay.
But both. I always say I got two hometowns.
Okay.
But the sports where there's both, like football and baseball, I'm Cincinnati first.
Okay.
But I'm a Hawks fan all day, all night, because we don't got an NBA team in Cincinnati. So, yeah.
Respect, man. I'm a Hawks fan every now and then, because they be boy.
When do we get a football team?
What do you mean?
Atlanta.
Don't.
Good question. Well, you know what? You can say the same thing about the Bengals, man. I just hope one of them win the Super Bowl in my lifetime. Which
straight up, I feel that.
I'll walk out right now and leave y'all two to do that, but don't ever disrespect the Falcons that.
It's gonna be okay.
You're not even a Falcons fan,
bro. They disrespect us. They disrespect us.
Aren't you a Ravens fan?
Huh?
Aren't you a Ravens fan?
Yeah.
Really? All right, so
that's where my family's from. My family's from Baltimore. So you right.
Oh,
so look, let me ask you, Christian, what did you come to Atlanta and end up doing? And it's your turn. And it's your turn.
I bet. Let's do it.
So just one move at a time?
Yep.
All right. I first moved here in 2005. So my senior year of undergrad, started off at Central State HBCU in Ohio, transferred to Ohio University, majored in healthcare administration. Is it my turn again?
Yeah.
We had to do an internship before we graduated at a hospital. And so my school only had contacts with Ohio hospitals, but I knew I wanted to live here. So me and my friend Greg Lee, we found Dr. Andy Agunobi's email address. He was the CEO of Grady at the time. So I reach out to the dude, and to my surprise, he responds. Then he's like, yeah, man, talk to this dude named Mark Radke. You see if he'll help you out. Calling Mark every day. Him and his assistant, not really getting much information. And so it's coming down to the wire when I have to tell my school, like, where I'm doing my internship the next quarter, or I'm not going to graduate on time. So at the time, I had an 85 Caprice Classic, two-door. It was, I put loud pipes on it, and I had two 12s in it, two TVs in it. But I was like, I don't know if it's going to make the 9-hour drive to Atlanta and back. And then if I get the internship, got to turn right back around and come back to the A. So I borrowed a friend's car. Well, first of all, I asked about 30 people, like, yo, can I borrow your car? I was like, I got a crackhead question for you, like Felicia Friday. Like, can I borrow your car? Smokey was like, borrow my car? Like, people ask to borrow a cup of sugar, like, not a car. But one friend, Jess, she said, yeah. I'm like, Jess, I'm driving your car to Atlanta. I'm going to need it for a couple days. And she's like, yeah, go ahead, take it. So I pull up March 11, 2005, which, the 20th anniversary for that just passed last week. And I see police cars everywhere, news vans everywhere. I thought President Bush was here. I mean, it looked like that kind of atmosphere.
That wasn't Brian Nichols.
It was.
Yeah.
So man, cops, full riot gear, ARs. They stopped me, pulled me out the car at gunpoint. I'm like this. They like, where you going? They checking I'm like, yo, what I do? And I'm scared. I'm like, I'm about to get killed by the police. And they never told me like why they pulled me over. They checked my license, they checked the plates on the car, and they just told me to get out. It's like, get out of here. And I found out later it was Brian Nichols had just happened. They had brought the victims to Grady. That's why, it was the huge presence there. And then there was a manhunt for him. Obviously, I guess I fit the description, just being a black dude. So
for sure.
But yeah, that's how I got here, man. I get to Mark's office, and he's like, man, I appreciate your persistence, but I still don't have an answer for you. And as a matter of fact, I'm on my way to a meeting. His phone rings. Dr. Sarah Killian, she was a director of patient care and women's health. She called to cancel the meeting, and he says, I got this kid just drove down from Ohio looking for an internship. Will you talk to him? And so I go speak to her, And I thought I had to just drive here and show up. I wasn't prepared for an interview. Worst interview of my life. So she got me an internship. So that's how I officially got to Atlanta, was interning in Grady back in 2005.
That's dope.
Show, man. Shout out to Jess. Jess, right? Jess?
Yeah.
Shout out to Jess, man.
Jessica Skosick.
A lot of people ain't gonna let you borrow their whip, man.
Man, for real.
Man.
For real. So
it was a brand new car too. It was a 2005 Toyota Echo. I mean, it was small, so I was in but it got me here. Thank you, Jess.
That's tough.
So let me ask you a question. How did you go from that to running for district attorney?
That's what I was about to say. How do you go from healthcare to DA?
So originally, I thought my goal was to be the CEO of a hospital. Because growing up, I grew up in a family of, I saw a lot of my family members and friends and people in my neighborhood, have encounters with the criminal justice system, my grandmother included. So when I was 7, I saw her get arrested, in my face. Police had her stripped down her underwear, sitting on a stool. And I just remember her telling me I would be different. And she would always call me doctor. But, as a kid, I didn't understand what she saw in me or why she didn't say it to my cousins or whatever. So I used to think I wanted to be a doctor just from hearing my grandmother say it so much. But I don't got the stomach to look at blood and guts.
Yeah, right. All right, me too.
So I majored in healthcare administration. I figured being on the business side of healthcare and trying to help communities in that way, and what hospitals do for their local communities, and just trying to push these narratives of better health, especially particularly in Black communities where we tend to have, certain kinds of health issues. But, I went to grad school after that, then went to law school. And in law school, I interned at Grady again. And while I was interning there, an Atlanta City Council person offered me a job when I graduated. And when they offered it to me, I said, why? Like, what you want me to come work in City Council? I'm trying to work here at Grady.
Yeah.
And I went back to Grady and said, hey, man, I just got offered this job in Atlanta City Council, but I want to stay here. They said, well, you better take that job because we ain't got the money to pay you and blah, blah, blah. But the thing that stuck out was them telling me that Tim Jefferson was the general counsel of Grady. He said, if you can work in local government politics, if you can navigate those waters, then you can work anywhere. I wasn't hearing that, though. Like, at the time, I had 2 kids. My oldest is now 16. My son was 6 weeks old when I started law school. Then I had another kid coming out of law school, my daughter. So at that time, my first daughter. So at that time, she was 3 weeks old. So I had a 3-year-old and a 3-week-old. I needed a job. So I called back the next day, like, hey, is that job still on the table? They were like, yeah. So I took it. August 15th, 2011 was my first day in Atlanta City Council. And I hated it because it just didn't make sense to me. It wasn't what I was, spent my educational career building up to work in politics. And at the time, I didn't know much about it in politics and wasn't really interested in it. And I get in this environment, then I struggle. But then, after a little bit of time and starting to, get my feet beneath me, and I was like, okay, now I get it. Like, I get, like, this room we're sitting in, like, how politics impacts everything. Like, somebody had to zone this house to be residential. Whoever voted to zone it at were elected. I mean, everything. This glass was made in a factory that somebody had to zone commercial. So everything ties back to politics. And once that light bulb kind of went off, I'm like, this is why Black people and minorities get left behind, because we don't understand how the game works. And then that's when the wheels started turning. And I know I'm taking a long time to answer.
No. This is the platform for that. Eat it up. I'm loving this.
Yeah, man. But so a friend from law school, an older white lady, law school was like her second career, I guess, or midlife crisis maybe. So I went to law school in Michigan, but then obviously I came back here, and she moved here from Michigan, and we went to lunch one day. and she told me this big vision or plan that she could see me doing. And I'm like, yeah, right. But then after her kind of planting that seed in me, it started making me think about, well, why does she see this in me? And then other people started saying it to me. Then it just started making me think, man, like, maybe I can run for office one day and try to be the change that I want to see. Or at the very least, let people know that it's okay to be from a place like I'm from, to look how I look with a bunch of tattoos and have the background that I have and the family that I have, to say I want to run for office. Because kind of circling back to how I talked about Cincinnati and not seeing those things, I think black people a lot of times, it's like we've been conditioned to think that we're not smart enough to run for office, we're not good enough, we're not qualified, we're not capable, that it's out of reach for us, especially coming from a place like Cincinnati where you just don't see that representation. And so, yeah, man, that's when the vision started changing from wanting to go from healthcare to running for office.
Yeah, that's good. So when I talk to the youth a lot. Yeah. My granddad told me, and I tell them, my granddad told me sometimes, majority of the time actually, don't worry about the why. The why will find you when the why wants to find you. And the why found you. You see what I'm saying? Because you questioning everything like, well, why am I in this room? Or why didn't they accept me? Or why didn't they have the money to pay me? Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And the why just trickling. All right, just chill. Boom, it's on you. See what I mean? So yeah. I think what I try to teach is the why is just, don't worry about the why. You know what I mean? Like in most cases, like why are we sitting here? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like why? Yeah. But it's a reason. You know what I mean? So yeah. Don't worry about the why.
Why would you want to show up to a place like the courtroom though? Like, you know, I've been in the courtroom and it didn't go as well. I didn't get paid to go. I had to pay to go. Yeah. And like, no, seriously, what attracted you to there? And had you ever been in a courtroom? Had you ever been in trouble or anything like that? It seemed like you had your head on pretty well.
Great question. So I'll kind of go backwards with the trouble part. You know, growing up, how I did, you know, I did some things I would say to survive. Like I, at one point, was selling stolen clothes out of the trunk of my car. I mean, I had to pay rent for the first time when I was 15. And then came, I'd say, this close twice to selling drugs because I thought that was the only pathway for me to survive at one point. But then I remember at 17, like it hit me too that, like, yeah, like the dope boys had the nice cars with the rims and the Air Max, which, you know, to this day, I only wear Air Max. I don't wear Jordans. I wear Air Max because that's what I saw. But I'm like, they live in the same apartment complex I live in. Mm-hmm. It's like, why don't they have, you know, real estate or these certain things, even though they have what I thought was appealing. But yeah, man, I found myself in a police interrogation room at 17. And that was kind of the turning point for me ending up in this chair now versus where I could have been. And thankfully, it was a black police officer who kind of pulled me to the side during that time and saying, I see more in you. Like, I see potential in you. You don't have to be this, even though I know this is what you see outside. This is what everybody else is doing. You know, there's some leadership qualities in you that I think you aren't tapping into. And that was the first time anybody spoke positivity in my life like that. And especially being like a black man and a black police officer. So I'm like, okay, maybe I do need to try something different. And, you know, I guess fast forwarding several years later, to how do I end up in a courtroom? I hated going to city council at first. I hated going to the courtroom even more than that. Because at that time, I'm still thinking about how do I get to be a hospital CEO. And I'm like, going into the courtroom as a prosecutor is taking me way off the pathway to get back there. But one of my mentors told me, you know, having trial experience and courtroom experience, that public speaking, being able to command a room, You know, those are all skills you can transfer to a leadership position, like being the CEO of anything. Most people don't have that. Be able to go in a room, command it, speak publicly, all of that. And then I talked to my cousin, Marcus Walden. This is all hustle no love. This side, I'm looking at the camera.
That's dope. Nah, it's good. It's dope though.
It's from Cincinnati, man. One of my cousins. This is his brand. He did 4 years in prison from age 19 to 23. And I remember talking to him like, bro, like, should I take this job as a prosecutor? Man, you know what people gonna think? You know, people back in the hood, just our friends, our family. He's like, man, take the job. He was like, you will understand a lot of reasons why people are going through what they're going through in ways other people in the system won't even know and won't care about. And he was like, trust me, you're gonna be able to help people in ways that you can't imagine. And I'm like, bro, this is my little cousin, like, it's a rapper, convicted felon, like, giving me, like, this profound life advice on what career choice I should make. And so, I took the job, man, and sure enough, I mean, more times than I can count, I was able to do, you know, what he told me I would do in that.
Yeah, man, because a lot of us are smarter than what we think we are, like you said. So your cousin being able to articulate that to you, he had it in him. You see what I mean? He just had to choose a different life path, however it may have came, but he had it in him enough to speak it into you. You see what I mean? So yeah.
So after being in the environment and kind of like going through multiple cases and everything, who belongs in jail and who doesn't belong in jail? And is there another option than jail?
Great question, man. And my answer to this also ties into really me finally making the decision to run for office. So it's 2013, my first year there. I get a 17-year-old kid arrested for weed possession. And I remember, you know, he came to court, it's him and his mom. And I could tell that he was kind of like me. It's like, you're from the hood, but it's like you're trying to figure out who he is. I could tell that he wasn't really like a thug or a gangster for real, but he was that was just the environment he came from. And so I decided to just have a conversation with him. I remember he came over, he was like, man, I just want to enter a no-low plea and get out of here. And I'm like, why you want to do that? I'm like, you don't want to talk to a lawyer first? I'm like, he's like, nah, man, just let me plead no-low and be about my business. I'm like, bro, how old are you? 17. What you doing right now? You know, I'm a high school senior. What you gonna do after high school? Like, man, I play ball. I want to go to the league. I'm like, where you see yourself in 10 years? NFL. So I'm like, bro, like, I get it. Like, coming from the hood, like, we think we can only make it as athletes or entertainers. But I'm like, do you realize you can plead no-low if you want to?
Not to cut you off. Explain no-low for the ones who don't, you know, understand what it is.
Got you. So in the criminal justice system, guilty is yes, I did it. You accept whatever comes from it. Not guilty, I didn't do it. If you got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that I did it if we have a trial. And then no-low is you're in the middle. Like, you're not saying you did it, you're not saying you didn't do it, but just to close things out, like, you'll accept responsibility for it and move on.
Gotcha.
So it's still a conviction, but in like traffic ticket situations, you might not get the points if you plead no-low. Like here in Georgia, I think they let you do it once every 5 years. But in a criminal case like that one for weed, it would have still had a detrimental impact on his life.
Okay.
Because at that time, any drug conviction, you couldn't get financial aid for college. Or if you were in college, and I saw this happen a bunch when I was in school, you lose your financial aid if you get a drug conviction. And then it's, you know, certain home loans, car loans. I mean, that's on your record for the rest of your life where it could impact you. And I'm explaining that to him, to his mom, and thankfully, Judge Gaines, you know, shout out to her, a week before this happened, because I'm new, right? This is my first year as a prosecutor. A week before this happened, she's explaining to me some of the powers that I have as a prosecutor, because the office I was in sucked. I mean, my supervising attorney was terrible. She was never there. I mean, it was horrible. we didn't get much like guidance and direction. So I really had to figure a lot of this out on my own. And so Judge Gaines is telling me, you know, you can create diversion for programs for people, do alternative sentencing, kind of getting back to your questions, like who belongs in jail, who doesn't, what are some of the other options? And she's explaining these powers that I have. And so I'm looking at this kid, I'm like, here we go. Like, let's see how this works. And I remember going in front of her, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna call it CSI, Christian Smith Intervention. And I want this kid to do some community service. I want him to take a class on like what drugs does if you use them and what drugs selling does in Black communities. And I want him to do some community service and give back and help somebody else. And we're bringing back in 30, 60, 90 days. If he's improving, I'll let it go. And so that's what we did. And a year goes by. Well, first, let me stop there. After I do that, my supervising attorney threatened to fire me. So she goes, we ain't social services. You know, we prosecutors. That was a slam dunk conviction. That was fine money coming in the door. Fine money for the city. Is that just blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you kidding me? Like, this kid is 17 years old. Where I was that kid. I was 17 in an interrogation room, and my life could have went one way, and here I am trying to help this kid. Just give him a chance. He might fail. We don't know.
Right.
But why set him up for failure when we have another option to give him an option to see if he'll pull himself out? And so, yeah, man, she threatened to fire me. And I said, do what you do. I'm gonna sleep good at night. I mean, I'll get another job.
For sure.
But, you know, who I am as a person, my morals, my values, I ain't breaking that for you or nobody, whether I'm in this prosecutor's office or not. And so, sorry, I made that little pivot, but fast forward.
Good. Needed that.
This is awesome. Yeah, that information is dope.
So a year later, 2014, I'm sitting at my desk and checking my email. And I get an email from a email address I don't recognize. I open it. It says, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but last year you gave my son a chance. He was a kid in court for possession of marijuana. Just wanted to say thank you and let you know that it didn't go in vain. He's at a junior college in Oklahoma, doing great in the classroom, doing great on the football field. He's ranked like the number 3 corner in JUCO. And I just want to say thank you. Man, it's broke down crying.
Yeah.
Because it kind of going back to the Brian Nichols thing in 2005, and I started applying to go to law school in 2006. And when you apply to law school, or at least at that time, I don't know what they do now, we had to write a personal statement saying why you wanted to be an attorney. And in my paper, I talked about that Brian Nichols experience, and I ended it by saying that I wanted to be the difference one day between at least one Black man going to college instead of going to prison. And here I am reading this in my office, in a prosecutor's office.
For sure.
In 2014, 8 years later, and seeing that. So in 2015, she called and said, hey man, I'm just calling to say thanks again. And he transferred to the University of Tennessee. He got a chance to start. We wouldn't be here without you. 2016, she called me again, like, man, you got to come to a game. You know, this stadium is 107,000 people and big time SEC football. So that year they played my school, Ohio University. So me and my kids, we went to Cincinnati, and on the way back, went to his game. His senior year, I went to 3. They played here against Georgia Tech when the Mercedes-Benz Stadium first opened, and the opening weekend. We went to another game in Tennessee, then I drove to Alabama and saw Jalen Hurts and a young Tua beat the brakes off Tennessee.
Nah, shout out to Honorable Judge Gaines.
For sure.
She put me through the system. Okay.
Oh, dang.
You remember the TLC program? I had to do TLC program. I did a couple of those programs. But it was like, but the thing was, I didn't have to go. I could have done some stuff that could have just been worse. Right. Jail culture is totally worse than going out to do community service and make sure that you keep your blood and your pee stream clean. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But they I went through those things, and I think Atlanta's a lot different from other cities. I've known people that have been locked up over weekends because of tenant windows, right? Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily something like just tenant windows, not anything else. right? Tinted windows.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that Atlanta would necessarily care about per se, right? But I want to ask this question. You got another question for him? Because I want to ask him a question.
Go ahead, and then I'll no. Let me ask mine because it just comes off of this one. Who or in what circumstance would you not represent a person?
Dang.
Because I always want to ask people, like, I'll be watching, like, trials, and I'll be like, dang, like,
you had to represent him? Like, he did it. Like, the blood's on his face.
Yeah, so I'll just be curious if you can answer or not.
I don't mind answering that. But got to finish that Justin Martin story real quick, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dopest part about that story is in 2018, I went to his graduation. So he graduated from Tennessee with a degree in communications. He ended up signing with the Kansas City Chiefs, so he accomplished his dream.
Shout out to
Justin
you.
Martin.
Shout out to Justin Martin. Shout out to his mom for not kicking him to the curb, because in our community, you do one thing wrong, they stressed out, everybody's stressed, and she like, all right, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's super dope.
I told you. When I say this is the man with the plan,
yeah,
like, no, for real, he just has a very good, genuine soul, and he cares about the things that like really matter. And it's good to know that your brain could have been in a space and time when you weren't making good choices, and you kind of saw why you weren't making good choices, right? So now when somebody comes up and it's like, oh, he had marijuana, it's not like, oh, it's a drug dealer, he's trafficking marijuana. No, it's like, let's find out what his story is, because everybody has one, right? And let's really dig into it, which is super dope. But go ahead with your question, because now I want to know the answer to that. Who you not gonna represent, Christian?
Yeah.
So the easiest first is I don't do any cases involving children. And coming out of law school, I actually got offered a job to work at a defense firm where they did a lot of those, like the sexual cases.
Okay.
And this firm was actually, the owner of it was really good friends with my favorite professor from law school. It was like family. And he was older. He was like, I'm going to retire soon. Like, bring you in, help groom you, and pass it off to you. And I'm like, nah. Then he's like, why not? I'm like, I can't do it. I mean, it's a trigger for me personally, but I'm just like, he's like, well, everybody is presumed innocent until proven guilty. They have the right to a defense. And I'm like, they do, but this ain't coming from me. Because a part of this that I don't think most people know, realize, appreciate, even myself included when I first went to law school, is everything about my job as an attorney is about somebody else's life, right? Whether I'm a prosecutor, defense attorney, if I'm a tax lawyer or a corporate lawyer, or I'm an entertainment agent, everything about my job is about somebody else's life. And you take that stuff on. And you, depending on what you do, you're going to get calls at 2, 3 in the morning. You're going to get 50 calls back to back to back. I mean, people's problems become your problems. Their stresses become your stresses. And so I just didn't want to take that on, right? Having to dive deep into those kind of facts and those kind of stories. Because I did as a prosecutor, and some of that stuff, it makes you cry. Some of that stuff makes you throw up. Having to read and see pictures and evidence of, human beings are capable of some really, really horrific, nasty stuff. And working in the criminal justice system for 7 years and seeing some of the worst and being able to tell you what a decomposing human body smells like, which I'm sure you two have never experienced, and I hope you never do.
I have.
But
it's terrible. But yeah.
So yeah, cases like that, now that I have my own firm, anything involving like kids, sexual crimes. I don't do a lot of the serious violent stuff either. I'm happy in my misdemeanor kind of middle of the road.
No, for sure.
It's not as stressful.
For sure.
It's not as, people, they have things on the line, but it's not like they're facing life. You know what I mean? I just don't.
No. Hold up, Christian. Just imagine if you were elected as the DA.
Yeah.
What kind of... I just see Farley just like... You know, nah, I ain't gonna say I seen her sweat. Yeah, I have never seen her sweat. I ain't gonna say that. But the type of headlines that hit the news in the morning and that kind of stuff, you think like guts, blood, or that?
No, I mean you're right. So yeah, if I were elected as DA, then that's my life every day, right? Is those high profile cases, all of that is part of the job and part of what you have to do. But since I'm not the DA, I get to choose.
So
what I work on, I'm not choosing that.
No, straight up.
That leads me to another question. Because I'm big on mental health, right? And you were going down the line on what you can see, what you can't see, what kind of triggers you, right? Mm-hmm. After let's just say a big case of yours. After a long week, month, year, however long they last, how do you reconnect with self? Like, how do you take care of Christian after you have to take care of everybody else's life? You see what I mean?
Yeah. So when I was in the criminal justice system, one of the things, and I still do it now, an officer that I worked with he was an undercover officer, and he did like big cases, like big cartel drug cases, like sexual crime cases. So one of the things he told me he does, like when he comes home every day, like he pulls his car in the garage, he'll take his shoes off in the garage before he walks into the house. And for him, that was symbolic of all of this nastiness that I've just done and in a way been a part of since he was undercover. Like, I'm leaving this outside of my house before I cross this threshold. Because now I'm coming in, with my family and peace and trying to work on, taking care of myself to not let that impact me. So just like something small like that is symbolic. I still do that now. Like, Makes sense. Come to my house, you pull in my garage, it's full of shoes because I don't wear them.
All Air Max, huh?
All Air Max. 95.
But that's cool.
Air Max 1s is my favorite. So it's stuff like that. But then it's also, there's no easy answer for that. But I'm super thankful for, my wife, my kids, just trying to help me. My wife in particular, it's like, like she just know how to to talk to me and how to help me get through some stuff if it's been rough. Because I mean it some of this stuff is, even in private practice now, recently I had a client who was in jail and wanted to call me every hour. And it's like, bro, like I just filed a motion yesterday. I can't file another motion. Like I'm doing everything that I can do to get you out, but just because you can call me every hour don't mean that there's something I can do for you every hour. But stuff like that, man, where it can be easy to take on other people's stresses and problems. You have to be really intentional, to your point, to make sure that it's not driving you crazy, because it can. And I've seen, like, I know lawyers who have gotten burned out really quickly. I know a couple of lawyers who have been disbarred from making, wrong decisions when it comes to handling other people's money and things like that. So, I think it all stems back to who you are as a person. And I'll say that's one of the things I'm grateful for about growing up in a place like Cincinnati and all of the things, the trauma and drama I experienced in my childhood, because it just made the core of who I am. And I'm not going to say unshakable and unbreakable, because I'm not perfect and nobody is, but it made me really, really strong. And it made me really, really, just persistent in wanting to chase the things that I want to chase and being good about not letting outside things kind of take me off that path.
For sure.
When I originally met you on Other Business or whatnot, you struck me in a way that I look at the courts. Like, very strong, very stern, very in his way. This is what you mean. This is what you said. You're very strong on that. And you also have a beautiful vision, right? I've heard you explain it in the news. I've seen you on CNN speak. I personally hope that the world gets to know you better, because I feel as if we didn't get I don't know if we were necessarily presented a choice. I heard Fonnie's name, but I ain't know about you. And I'll be completely honest. And I don't think it had anything to do with you promoting yourself and all that type of... It's a lot of noise that goes on, right? It's a lot of noise. But to kind of reel this into a question, why do you think Fonnie won that election?
Well, first, congratulations to her for winning. Like, I've never been a sore loser. I don't try to make any excuses for, the people elected her. She's the DA in Fulton County. And what I will say I appreciate about her is that you've seen political campaigns or political candidates like be really dirty and nasty and disrespectful to each other. I was very intentional and made it clear to her that that's not me, and I'm not gonna take that route. I mean, if you do, cool, but she wasn't. I mean, so we never said anything negative about each other. So respect to her for that. But it could be a number of different things, man. Like, her name recognition. I mean, she's known across the country at this point because of her taking on two really big cases, the Donald Trump case and the Young Thug case. So, that's part of running for office is how, when people go into that voting booth, do they see a name that they know?
Gotcha.
So, her name recognition is super high. And, she did do something that a lot of people might not have done, which was choosing to prosecute Donald Trump, even though the outcome wasn't what I guess she wanted it to be. And then, there was a controversy and all of that. But, I don't know, man. That's the voters got who they wanted, sure. And I respect that. And
I don't know. And I'm thinking, and not because there's A and B. When we had these conversations today and we talked about these things, you don't feel like anybody has these things in sight and in mind when you're in the position of being in court. Or if you're at the DMV, or if you're at any government, you don't feel like you ever get the choice of that person that will make that change for you.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a lack of understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a bundle full of noise, right? This is happening on CNN today. This is happening on this and that. This is happening on this and that. This and that. Republican, Democrat, Trump, Kamala, and it's like, oh, I still can't afford food.
For sure.
Right?
No.
Where's the person that really cares and can talk about that? Like you pulled up today, and I appreciate it, right? I don't know if other people will show up, right? We're in the basement. We're kicking it. We got 33 people that tune into our show right now, right?
Right now.
Right? There are people who would need more reason to show up to a place like this. Yeah. But to me, this is what matters. This is what really means something to me as far as selecting my politicians, not just politicians, but my leaders in the community.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it means so much. Now it's about getting people out there to understand who is out here for us way before election time.
Mm-hmm.
These are advertisements, right? Go buy Bitcoin when everybody's talking about Bitcoin. Wrong decision.
Yeah.
Find out about people like Christian Wise. Find out about Fonnie. Mm-hmm. Find out about these people before they're elected and they are subject to news that's thrown to you, so you automatically have this insight about them that's not necessarily true.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're a little short on time, but I still want to do this. It's two things I want to do. We got corner pockets, all right? In these corner pockets, there are topics, okay? And I think we'll just do one. We'll let Christian choose because he's the guest.
All right, let's do it.
And then
we totally forgot about.
I had a feeling about.
It's cool. Yeah.
That means the conversation was good.
Great.
Right? It was good.
Yeah.
Well needed. And to everybody out there that has their own podcast, I know that people are saying, "Oh, podcasts are too much and too much is that." I haven't seen an episode like this before, right? And there's stories that need to be told that may not be cool, may not be this, may not be that, but you don't know how much things affect your life sometimes, right?
Who are you watching that say pod? I don't even listen to music no more when I'm riding.
Really?
I listen to podcasts.
Podcast.
Literally, bro. Information rules the world, man.
I think the people that hate on podcasts are the people that don't necessarily get up to go create the content per se.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That's everything, man. It's easy to hate from the sideline.
Yeah, you don't understand it. It's easy.
You on the game, you focus on the game.
Right.
Straight up.
you know, every game, NBA, NFL, whatever. It's always people heckling from the stands.
Always, until you got to get on that court. I mean,
2 seconds. Podcasts, music, movies, they're all about storytelling, right? And I'm not going to get too deep, but when we talk about Wade in the water, it was a message for us. I know it's crazy.
I understand it.
But I know that message was for us to prosper in a way. And we're giving all these different avenues to talk about things. And I feel like we need to be cautious about what we're talking about and being enlightened about what we share. Because it matters. It matters. All right, I'm done with that part. All right, so go ahead, pick out one of these, and and then you're going to open up. We're going to talk about it for a few minutes, and then we got wise choice, right? Yeah, we'll have a wise choice.
All right.
Matter of fact, you pick one, I pick one.
Okay.
Quick,
Okay.
Boom. All right.
So mine says TikTok. I don't get it. Why is that funny?
Because it's just TikTok.
Yeah, we didn't even.
You're the attorney, right?
We just pulled them out, man. How you
So
feel
wanna
about
talk
it?
About TikTok?
Yeah, how do you feel about TikTok?
I actually like TikTok.
Come up with one word, man.
One word?
Just what? Look at it. Matter of fact, look at pick it out. Look at it. One word that comes to your mind. All right. So you got TikTok.
I guess it's a hyphenated word. I'm gonna say game changer.
Okay.
Straight up.
I would.
What you get?
Mom. Best friend. Yeah, I miss my mom, man.
Money now versus money then. Ripped off? Everything's too expensive now, bro.
Everything, man. You walk out the house, you spend $300 on what?
And eggs are collectible, bro. All right, cool. So we're gonna, because we already there on time. This was great. This was fantastic. We didn't finish Chinese checkers. Yeah, I'm
Most
so
definitely.
dope for
Most
that.
Definitely.
I'm so I feel so down to do that, and I want to work on something, but we'll see. So, but the way I want to wrap this up is we're gonna create a segment, and I think I would love for this segment to kind of stick throughout our show.
For
in respect to you, Christian.
For
We
sure.
want to call it.
We gonna start it off. You gonna start it off.
Right. So we're gonna ask you. This segment's called Wise Choice. Okay. And we're gonna ask you a question, and we would like your wise opinion. Okay. There's a fellow, somewhere in the United States. He decided to go do the PPP loan. Okay. And there's some paperwork that he should file and fill out. Do you suggest it's a wise choice to say, hey, forget it all? They're not even talking about the PPP loan anymore? Or do you think it's a wise choice to go ahead and take care of your business?
He needs a lawyer up.
Oh, God. I'm not talking about myself.
No, because I'm looking in your eyes. You look like you done did the PPP.
Hey, man, be quiet, bro. They're going to go to their list. They could just look it up. They're going to look you up, too, Corliss.
I'm good.
Okay.
The thing about the feds, which I don't know if people realize nor appreciate. What I appreciate about them is that they investigate first and then charge. A lot of times you see local DAs charge then investigate. So, PPP, you're talking about for federal crime, federal prosecution, and a lot of those people who were caught up in that are being charged for it. So especially if this person you're talking about, or whoever they are, if they did something fraudulent with it, they need to lawyer up. If they were legit and did that PPP stuff the right way, then they don't got nothing to worry about.
I was just talking to the people. You see him back there? I was talking about him back there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying.
I'm a man of accountability, man. Let's make sure you.
Nah, bro, I'm clean, bro.
Stop,
That's clean, bro. It's actually called improv. Okay, I had to come up with a question that was interesting. Now we can tag PPP, and guess what? You know what I'm saying? A few more views.
For sure. But this is dope, man. We appreciate you popping up. We appreciate you coming out. Again, it's good to have people that are hands-on that we can touch and call. If we need a conversation or need something. Or need a lawyer, because he sound like he
Bro, see, now you gonna have a phase, bro. Because they gonna watch because Christian's on the show now. They gonna be like, so who's that light-skinned white black man on the side?
Yeah.
No, but for real, he's like speaking from a point where it's cool to have an artist to call up and hit up and like go make a song with or whatnot.
Sure.
But sometimes you need some real guidance.
Yeah.
You know, that comes from outside of the street sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That comes from looking at the system and not understanding it. Having somebody to contact, that type deal. But again, it's highly appreciated that you will pull up to a place like this. It makes me feel like in the future, whatever you come to be, one, I'm gonna vote for you. Two, I will never question your vision.
Thank you, and thank you, brothers, for starting this. You know, this is a positive platform, and like you said, man, we're in this space where so much information is going out that it's not all enlightening, it's not all uplifting. A lot of it is trash. You know, just to be frank about it. But what you guys are doing is needed. You know, and there's a lane for you guys to bring positive, conversations about. I mean, you guys talk about what it's like to be married and what, you and your spouses talk about it. I mean, those are things that I just want to see more things that uplift, black families, black communities, black culture. So thank you guys for having me. It's dope what you've done. I hope you guys continue to do it, no matter what curveballs come your way, because the 33 viewers you got right now, it might be 33 million next year. I mean, you never know. Or if it stays 33, the impact you might be having on one of those lives will be more than if you just sat on the sidelines. So it's one life at a time, man. And that's how we make progress. That's how we help each other. That's how we build each other up. And you, I got to say this before we go. My wife loves you because of how you treated my youngest daughter. And so anytime you call me, I'm always going to be there for you. That means a lot to me as a man, just to hear my wife say, you know what, I like Brandon. Because Brandon was really nice to Kaden. That means a lot to you, to me, how you treated my daughter. So thank you, my brother.
Nah, that's dope.
Bro.
That's dope. Oh, and let me piggyback, I had something to tell you last week. For one, I appreciate that. You said curveballs. I played baseball at a high level, so if a curveball comes, it's out that way. For two, I have to say it because he said it. I can't remember verbatim how you said it, but you asked yourself, you questioned yourself about why couldn't you, or why didn't you, or why should you, however you worded it. We had a conversation last week, and you asked me something that was crazy. And I sat on it, and I'm trying to work on my words, right? Because my wife always tell me, like, stop being so blunt. Like, stop, everybody can't take it. And cool. Don't ever question yourself about what you should be doing, how you should be doing it for nobody else, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry I got to cuss, but you good with it? Fuck them folks, bro. You feel me? Like, if this is, I'll tell you off camera what we talking about, but I'm telling you on camera. Fuck what they talking about. You are great at what you do. You see what I mean? You are great as a human being. You are great as a person, bro. And I'm telling you this, man to man, friend to friend. You know what I mean? So don't ever question yourself about nothing ever again, bro. Especially not in front of me, bro. You feel me?
Respect, bro.
For sure.
And that's another episode of Basement Conversations.
Yes, sir.
Real, though.
Yeah. You remember what we talked about?
I know exactly what we talking about.
Okay. All right.
You talking about old episodes and that kind of...
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Some folk, bro. I'm saying.
Let's go.